Good afternoon, councillors and everyone, and welcome to the council meeting of Wednesday, the 7th of June. Welcome to the councillors. Special welcome to Rob Mackle, who was elected in the Western Ward by-election. This is my first meeting with you, Rob, so welcome. And welcome to the staff and media and all those who are listening in from wherever they're listening in from. And I'll call for apologies, and I know of none. Extraordinary business. None. Declarations of interest, any matters on today's agenda? No. With confirmation of the minutes, which is on page 3, first of all we will, any alterations or additions of those minutes on page 3 or 4? 5 and 6. Being nothing there, that the minutes of the 17th of May council meeting be taken as read and confirmed. Someone like to move?
I'll move.
Councillor McMillan, Councillor Brown. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Next item is the receipt of the minutes on the Biodiversity Advisory Group, 8th of May, which is on page 7. So I'd like to move that we receive those minutes. Councillor Brown, Councillor Lovett. All in favour, please say aye. Okay. Nothing to come out of them. No discussion. Item number 6, which is on page 9, Creative Communities Fund Assessment Committee, which was held on the 4th of May 2023. And recommendation there that council receives the minutes of the Creative Communities Funds Assessment Committee meeting held on the 4th of May 2023. Someone like to move? Councillor Todd. Councillor Brown. All in favour, please say aye. Councillor carried. Any comments on those? Grants, funding? Nope.
No, everything's correct, and it was a good meeting.
Thank you. Item number 7. We'll hold item number 7 because we're waiting on Nigel Bowen from Mayor of Timaru, who also chairs the Canterbury Mayoral Forum, who's going to speak to that, so he's not due till 1:30. So we'll hold that item over until he gets there, so we can move on to item number 8, review of the local alcohol policy. Okay, Mark and Femke. Anything further to add to your report we have in front of us?
No, essentially it's to adopt or to approve the LAP for consultation. As you know, we've gone through a bit of a review process, and at this stage we are not proposing any changes to that policy, subject to any information that comes out of the consultation round.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? You've had a workshop on this. Any questions? I know I couldn't attend the workshop, but I have one question which may require a change or it may not, and it's on page 25, which is in the actual policy, and it's on one-way door restriction, and it says that the one-way door restriction will come in from a force from 1 AM. And I'm thinking myself, that's too late. Would 12 o'clock not be better than once you go out you can't go back into a public place, hotel, bar? Obviously this will go out for consultation, so
Yeah, so I mean that was obviously what the previous policy council came up with for the previous policy, which was back in 2017 when this was first developed. Obviously that's at your discretion as to what you think is appropriate, and at that point there wasn't any feedback that I'm aware of from the stakeholders we spoke to that were opposed to the current 1 o'clock one-way door policy. I think that's correct.
yeah. If we put it out as you've got it now, 1 AM, it may be fine, it may not, or some submitters may want it earlier, and they won't have had a chance to, other submitters won't have had a chance to talk about it. But if we changed it now, we can always move it back to 1 o'clock if it's gone out for submission at 12. We don't have to change it, but here's some lights on, councillors. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you. I think it's, from what I understand, it's working well as is. The police seem happy with it, so probably if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Councillor Todd?
I think the 1 a.m. suggested one-way policy was because it's 1 hour before closing time. So the bar closed at 2, so it's an hour before actual closing time. I'm assuming.
Yeah, did you want that assumption clarified? Or not? If I,
Oh, well, if anyone knows if that's true.
might be a question, Caroline, if you go off and, or two off and Tony back on. Tony had a question there, I think, for you, Mark. Lynette? No, just turn off from
Oh, right.
Tony, if you had a question there. Yeah.
That, sorry, through the chair, that is correct. 2 o'clock is the current closing time for taverns, including hotel bars, and yes.
Yeah. Caroline, oh,
But I assumed that the one-way policy coming in at 1 o'clock was an hour before closing time at 2 a.m. Is that why it was set at 1 a.m.?
Sorry, I don't know. Tony may be able to highlight from when the policy was first developed, whether that was the case.
Through Mr Mayor, I think to save blushes, let us find that out because the people who are most closely associated with this policy aren't in this room right now. So whether that was the intention, it's certainly the effect. But whether it was the policy intention, I'm not so sure. But we'll find out for you.
Councillor Cameron this time.
I think I like the 1 a.m. One-way exit. I think it allows people to plan their evening and socialise with their friends and do whatever. We can't always assume that people at 1 o'clock in the morning have drunk too much and should be going home, Mr Mayor. I think it gives them an opportunity to go and meet their mates and enjoy what Ashburton has to offer, or indeed Methven or other great cities of Rakaia and Hinds.
Just on that comment, Methven was mentioned, but Methven doesn't have a one-way door policy, does it? Or Hinds?
Through the chair, there are the specified in the policy states the Ashburton urban area, and for all other areas of the district, like Methven, it's at the discretion of the DLC, so it will be on the individual licenses. And in Methven, it could be on the individual licenses of licensed premises.
Yep.
The one-way door policy.
Thank you. Councillor Lovett.
I'd say leave it up to the submitters. 1 way at 1 o'clock's fine by me, but there's no national policy or guidelines, is there, in the country? Everything is up to each individual district or city, whatever. You know, looking at that and looking at, we know we're going to get submissions and to introduce a cap. So there's no national cap per population, population basis, how many bottle stores you should have. It's up to us, is it?
Yes, my understanding, Mark might be able to clarify, but there's no national cap
There's no
or proportion of licences per population as a rule. And in fact, I think it's called a local alcohol policy for a reason. The local community, through this process, decides what's appropriate for that local community.
Okay, so there's no suggested guidelines or nothing, so, okay.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, there are some parameters around, like trading hours, that the maximum extent of trading hours that you can go to in the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act, which this policy falls under, but not in terms of caps, as I understand it.
And that's a very good point you raised, Hamish. It's a local alcohol policy, so now is the time, once this is passed and out for consultation, for our local people to have their say on what we want in this district regarding alcohol. So now is the time. Any further questions? If not, there's a recommendation in front of us.
I'll happily recommend this recommendation we have.
Would you like to
sitting
read
for
the recommendation?
That the council approves the draft local alcohol policy for consultation from the 14th of June to the 14th of July 2023, and that the council adopts the local alcohol policy consultation document.
Seconder, Councillor Cameron. Open for debate, discussion. With there being none, I'll pass the motion. All in favour, please say aye. It's carried, and it's now out for consultation. Thank you. Thanks, team. Next up, financial reports. Page 39. Shall go through them just about page by page. 40, 41. And noting this is expenditure up to the 30th of April 2023. 43. Oh, Richard?
I note on page 43, with regards to operation expenditure on roading, that's at 106%. That, I understand that includes the remedial work done due to the floods in July, but we still, effectively, we still have funds available to continue maintaining our roads for the rest of the year.
Correct. And that flood damage funding, Neil, got approved relatively recently by Waka Kotahi. So while we reflect here expenditure against the approved budget at the time, there has been an approval for additional spending to repair the flood damage.
Only 51% of
To the extent that Waka Kotahi
Yeah.
subsidises our work.
their share was 51%, our share was 49.
Yeah.
Page 42, 3, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59,
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Todd.
thank you. With forestry, while they're saying that the prices are back, do we have to harvest the trees now? Why can't we just keep them growing and wait till the price is better? Is there a reason that we have to harvest now?
Leah?
Through the chair. So the price, when we started harvesting, the price was significantly up and we were looking at making a really favourable outcome. While we were harvesting, so the work had started, the international prices dropped. The domestic prices are still stable and will still, we believe, meet budget, but we couldn't stop. And on top of that, we were past what's deemed our age of the forest, which means we're not insured either. So we've got to weigh up the risks.
Page 58, 59. I just have a question on page 59. It's under economic development, capital income, commercial property. We've got two buildings we're going to sell. We've indicated we're going to sell. Have you got an update or perhaps another forum as to when they are going to hit the market?
At this stage, through the chair, sorry, at this stage, no. We're still trying to ascertain a valuation, and that's proving a little bit challenging because we aren't able to ascertain the cost to bring the library outside of its earthquake prone. What would it take to bring it out? That's one of the things valuation is looking for. Plus, I'm not sure what's holding our civic building up. I can follow that up. But we are doing the work at the moment. We're just waiting on them.
The valuation will be on the day it's sold, no doubt. 60, 61.
Mr. Mayor,
Tony?
the Art Gallery Museum, what's holding back the air conditioning and the building work that's being delayed?
Essentially, the resource consent and a letter to the side of the resource consent, which requires agreement of all parties to even apply for a variation of the consent.
Okay.
And we've been unable to get that agreement. So we're now waiting for 10 years to elapse from the time of the original consent, when we are then entitled to apply for a variation.
Okay.
And that's, we need the variation in order to give effect to the repairs in the manner in which our experts tell us is the best way to fix the air conditioning issues.
62, 63. Sixty-four, 65, councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Just with the difference in the reserve contributions, because they're well above where they're at, do we then redo our budgets on what we're going to spend on playgrounds and things like that, since there's more money there than we thought we were going to have, or does this just keep carrying forward until some time?
Through Mr. Chairman, we're driven by the operating expenditure budget, the plans that council had to do the work, rather than ebbing and flowing with revenue. So the revenue, if it's up, would transfer to a reserve, which would have the capacity then in a future round of budget considerations to do more work. So it ends up in the same place, but it doesn't happen iteratively in the same period. Yep.
64, 65. Sixty-six, 67. Sixty-eight, 69. Seventy, 71. 72, 73. 74, 75. I just have one question. It's on roading, and we've got borrowings there of 7 million. Probably not for now, but could we have a breakdown on what we got for that 7 million? Because we didn't used to have loans for roading, as I understand. But you won't have it now, but perhaps for future reference for us, please.
Will do, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. 75. 76. 77, which is the EA Networks P&L. Just thinking that this is quite a busy wee table and we don't seem to have discussion on it. I'm wondering if we could send this table to Audit and Risk to be looked at there in probably a bit more depth and a bit more, that we might get more discussion on it. Because there's a lot of info there, and if we want to delve into it, perhaps it could go there to be discussed.
Yes, we certainly do what council's will in this area. I just look at Philippa because I think the terms of reference currently for both council and particularly the Audit and Risk Committee is that all financial matters come to council, which was a request of council back in the day. So if council has a will for this one piece of financial reporting to go to Audit and Risk, that's not necessarily wrong, but we probably want to have a resolution, and then we will need to examine terms of reference and amend whatever we have to amend to give effect to that intent.
Thanks for that advice. We could leave it here, but perhaps we could just have some commentary on it then, because there's no commentary.
Yeah, we're here to
We can do
give you
that.
what you need.
Yep, thank you. We discuss it later. Yep. Councillor Cameron.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, is to send it to Audit and Risk, the EA.
We'd have to change the terms of reference for that to happen.
Do we have to do change? We haven't looked at that, have we?
Well, yes, I mean,
You can't.
I would ask that you pass a resolution to give effect to whatever it is that council wishes to do, and that will give our decision-making platform to amend whatever has to be amended to do it. At the moment, the terms of reference of the Audit and Risk Committee aren't that they would receive this information. So if you want that to happen, we just need to make some consequential changes.
So we could do a resolution right now to send it to Audit and Risk.
Okay, can I do that, please?
That was a question I had.
Oh,
Can we
can
do
we?
that?
Yes, I am looking at Philippa, but yes, as long as the resolution is worded such that all consequential changes, are made in order to make that happen. But we're trying to give effect to your intent. A resolution is the best way.
I would like to recommend that the EA Networks financial income and expenditure report is sent to audit and risk for more detailed review before being forwarded to council. I'd also like to, as associated recommendation, that revenue and financing policy is reviewed and adjusted if need be.
It won't be the revenue and financing policy.
Terms of reference of the
Terms
committee.
of reference, okay. Terms of references.
Is reviewed to enable that.
Allow it, yeah.
Have you captured the bones of that, Philippa?
So through you, I was just going to check, is it just the EA income and expenditure, not the financials?
No, just that one page.
Thanks.
Yep. Seconder? Richard?
Yes, I'll second that, Mr Chair.
Open for discussion, debate? Being none, put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Item number 10, councillors' reports, and we have the Deputy Mayor's report. And just before we go to Deputy Mayor Liz for comment, just thank you for the time when I was away fulfilling the role. Thank you very much. It's always good to get away and have a break, but it's also good to know that the establishment is in fine hands when I am away. So thank you. Any questions on the Deputy Mayor's report? Clarifications?
Me.
Councillor Lovett.
Just the bike schools meeting, because we talked about that through road safety and just whether we've got a place for it to go, or is it going to happen, or how did the meeting go?
I can answer it, but Tony may also want to chip in. Really successful meeting the other day. Councillor Todd was there as well, and quite a few service groups. So it was really well received. Tony Durham ran a really good meeting, and we're due to meet again, I think in a month, and go from there. But everyone was really interested in getting a bike skills park up and going. Probably the best thing to come out of the meeting is we had someone from the Timaru Bike Skills Park Committee come and present and showed us their plans and basically gave an overview of how long it took them to do it and what it cost them. So that was really interesting as well. But no, it was a good meeting, and I think we'll move forward. We just have to figure out a spot for it. That will be the tricky bit.
So someone's figuring that at the moment, are they? The spot?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there was,
Councillor Todd?
there was definitely enthusiasm from all the service groups, organisations that were there. We now need to define a site and obviously come back to council, etc., for approval for it. That'll be decided at our next meeting. But
Great.
no, the gentleman from Timaru Lions, they did the project at Timaru, and they have done an excellent job down there with their project. So it was a great, very good meeting.
Good work. Councillor Hooper?
Thank you. I was just going to ask, how big a spot do you need, and how much did the Timaru one cost, just ballpark?
We've got two lots. Tony? We've got two Tonys. So, Councillor Todd, we've got the Mayor of Timaru here too, so he can perhaps answer if we get it wrong.
Better watch what we say then. The project in Timaru, discussed, was basically $500,000. That was the budget that the Lions Club have raised down there for their project.
Okay.
Now,
Thank
Tony, number one.
I'm trying to
Mrs.
remember
Dillon.
how big the space was off the top of my head. I'm looking to Timaru experts in the back of the room. But it's all scalable, isn't it? It's how big you want to make the park will obviously increase the size and cost. And there's just a few factors we're working through in terms of an open space for it to go into, in terms of making sure that it is accessible for communities and also visible and meets all the SEPTED principles. So there's a bit of a criteria that we'll create to test our thinking on some possible sites in and around Ashburton.
Thank you. Anything further questions for the Deputy Mayor for her report? If not, I'd like to move in a second that the report be received.
I'll move it.
Councillor McMillan, Councillor Hooper, all in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. We'll go back to item number 7, and it's the plan for Canterbury, and we have Mayor Nigel Bowen from Timaru here. Welcome, Nigel. And Nigel is the chair of the Canterbury Mayoral Forum, and I'll let Nigel fill us in on what's been happening since this year with the new councils, new mayors when they meet in Christchurch to produce this plan for Canterbury. So Nigel, the floor is yours. Thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Mayor Neil, appreciate that, and thanks for the opportunity, Mayor and councillors, and congratulations to Councillor Mackle. You're at the table, congratulations. Good to have a couple of Mackles around the Canterbury table, so that's great. Look, thanks first for the opportunity. I'll just take you a little bit through the process and what we've done this year, talk about some brief priorities, and then just throw it open to questions and discussion. So, look, I think the key thing, and you're well aware, Mayoral Forum agreed in the Tronium agreement that you would have passed in the last few months, is the 10 TAs and Environment Canterbury. And so the mayors and chair and chief executives meet quarterly, and also sitting under that is the chief executive forum, which your chief executive Hamish chairs. And so the plan for Canterbury, we did this about 3 years ago and did a lot of work on it. We looked and reviewed in January, had a workshop, kicked it around a little bit, and overall said, yeah, hey, this is pretty fit for purpose, but let's be a little bit more nimble and agile on how we move forward, just having a little bit of flexibility around the priorities and almost that sort of plan on a page, also taking into account we were an election year, and so there was the opportunity to push our priorities to both sides of the house, which is key. Well, I guess one of the challenges in that space, as you're well aware, with Cyclone Gabriel, it sort of threw a lot of that out the window, but it doesn't take away from what our key priorities are, and one of them, and I'll talk to it in a minute. Is still as relevant today, whether it's the investment matrix of the government has changed or not. And we go back to 2019 when we had the Rangitata flood, which affected both sides, both TAs as far as Timaru and Ashburton. As an example, we had the 21 floods, and a lot of that work and resiliency work still needs to be done, and we still need investment in those rivers. So that goes straight into, what our first priority is, should I say, and that's advocating with government around that co-investment in flood protection to protect both local and national assets. And I just want to step back, actually. One of the key things with the Mayoral Forum is that, hey, the philosophy, if you like, is that yes, we are all mayors of individual districts, but when we come together, we have the philosophy, if it's good for one of us, it's good for all of us. And I think if you look in that resiliency space as an example, having good infrastructure through Ashburton and Timaru when we're in the middle of the country is going to benefit all of Canterbury, but it's also going to be great for that South Island Inc. And NZ Inc. as well, so really important. Second priority was advocating from government for immigration and skills policies that work for Canterbury. Great example, again, I use a Huranui or a Mackenzie, have quite different needs to a Ashburton, which might have quite different skills shortages needs with businesses in central Christchurch or Christchurch. So it's around advocating for a plan that works for Canterbury, both regionally but also sub-regionally. And the third key one was collaboration with government to develop an integrated transport funding approach, both with PT, less of an issue potentially for you, but you will still have, PT and subsidies and those sorts of things through Environment Canterbury, but also that wider funding of the transport network. So those are probably the key things, and I'm probably keen to just have any discussion and take any questions if you like, just to keep on time for you.
Thanks, Nigel. It's good overview of the plan. And for those councillors, PT is public transport. We don't have it, so we don't use that those 2 letters very often at all, because we don't have public transport.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And the third one's the climate change mitigation adaptation, building community resilience, and making our infrastructure as strong as it can be. And I suppose it'd be remiss of me if I didn't mention that we've got one bridge that we need for resilience and climate change, etc. You hear it often, I think.
I've never heard it before in my life.
We keep pushing that barrow, so yeah. I've got some questions coming up, and Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Just on your public transport, the way your buses operate is a bit different to pretty much anywhere else, with it being basically an Uber-based system, if you like, almost. How do you find that works, and is it successful?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing, and the challenge with it is that it has a higher cost, and so your farebox recovery, because of demand, they've had to put more buses. So I think there's around 7 or 8 running on a daily basis, where there was used to be 3 or 4 big buses driving around taking no one around, but now there's 600 or 700 people using it daily. If you look to those in the older residential communities and homes and those sorts of things, it's giving people the confidence to come, back out as they're ageing. So it's absolutely wonderful. The challenge is that it has an extended trial, because I don't think the government know what to do as far as that ongoing funding with it, because it's so successful that everyone wants to pick it up across the country, and it's going to add a cost to the from the national funding, but also your local rates funding through ECAN as well. So that's the challenge with it. But it is a great model, and if you had something similar here, I'm sure it would be well picked up.
Slightly off topic, but it is quite interesting. I do follow on from that. You have a taxi service in Timaru?
Yeah, we do. And so
how'd that fare?
Yeah. So you're slightly off topic, but I'm happy to talk to it. And so that's the cost of these successful, PT networks, is that I think it goes through to 7 currently. I think it extends on a Friday and Saturday night through to 9. But in that sort of 3-year period, our taxi fleet's halved. And they, I guess you could argue disruption, and, those sort of things are always going to change. It's the taxi services that haven't, realised that Uber was coming and that they need to adapt. It's the ones that actually, deliver easy, and all the kids are running around on, little motorbikes and little cars and what have you. And what was the opportunity if the taxi services picked those sorts of things up? And, I've had them in my office, complaining, thinking we should do something about it. I said, well, actually, go talk to Chair Scott. It's an ECAN issue. But it is, the reality is you will lose, taxis because of it.
Councillor Lovett?
I was just going to look at public trains, the train service through, whether it's right from Timaru to Christchurch, or Ashburton to Christchurch. It's a few years ago now, there was a study done, and we weren't quite up to the numbers, but we know that main highway is full of people going to work in Christchurch or coming down. And I wonder, is it timely to push the government to do, or somebody do another study on whether it's viable to putting on a train service?
Yeah, so the next steps, I'm aware, because I asked this question the other day of our regional transport committee head office, Jesse, and we are discussing that at the next regional transport committee in 3 months' time. And it is some time away, but they are bringing a paper back to the regional transport committee. So after that, I'm sure Neil can give you some more information.
That's really good, because, when there's big events down in Timaru or down in Dunedin, it would be good if they could get a train going backwards and forwards, because these highways are just getting ridiculous. you know, just a jam up on them. It's, yeah.
I 100% agree. I always come off peak into Ashburton, otherwise, yeah. It's great spending good quality time in traffic through Tynwald.
I think I do warn you, the best time to come through is between 10:30 and 11 o'clock in the morning. That's when you won't get the congestion, but the rest of the time you will. Exactly. Just following on from Lynette and the train, I think we've had some emails with our national want-to-be MP around public trains and whatever. He's gathering information for his information from us, and Nigel's been responding to him, I've seen, yeah. So it is live. Liz, a question on the plan?
Thank you. Kind of. Thanks, Nigel. Just going back to My Way, and is that affected by the free public transport that the government are bringing in with the school children? Do they?
It's I don't believe, because it's on demand, it doesn't qualify.
Doesn't qualify.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you still, I think the current cost is $2.50.
Okay.
It's pretty cheap. Yeah.
Thank you. And just another question, if that's okay. Climate change, and there's quite a bit of promotion of It's Time Canterbury around the place at the moment. I see it on a lot of billboards going into Christchurch. So is that something the Mayoral Forum is, are they working with them, or is that something that ECAN is leading?
No, it's a combination, I think. It sits under the climate change work, but it's a offshoot. I have seen the billboards myself, but I'd have to go and have a look a bit deeper. Hamish, I'm not sure if you got any further info.
Mr. Mayor, that It's Time Canterbury came through ECAN, but it was a collaborative piece of work, and we might recall maybe 2 years ago, the ECAN people in charge of that project sat exactly where Nigel is now and presented it to council, and it was agreed to, to roll it out across our communities to raise awareness around climate change and its impacts. It's not a particular piece of work the Mayoral Forum has driven, but we have had that information to the Mayoral Forum to keep mayors up to date, but it's more driven in a collaborative way through ECAN, I would describe it.
Who we got? Councillor Wilson.
Yes, good afternoon. It's to do with climate change again and managed retreat. It's been brought to our attention probably recently with the Auckland floods and the Hawke's Bay floods, where councils have been put on the hook, you'd say, for some of the compensation paid for houses which can't be rebuilt. As the Mayoral Forum put their minds to that, because it's all very well to talk about climate change and it could happen, but when our balance sheets are faced with huge costs potentially, that's probably the more pressing issue I think that we need to be thinking about, is they put their mind to where they stand on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but probably not in detail. And I think probably, one of the things that came up a couple of weeks ago when we met with ministers, and you might have seen in the paper that we met with 9 ministers in Wellington a few weeks back, and James Shaw, spoke at the time around some of the issues sitting in that space, and there needs to be legislation, to understand where, a lot of the costs and obligations lie. And so I think, there's a lot of work that probably we need to be pushing back on central government, because you're right, our balance sheets just can't afford to do that work.
No further questions. Thank you, Nigel. Very well presented. Thank you very much. Most of those questions are on the plan, but it's good to learn about the public transport as well. So thanks very much for coming up and sharing that with us. You shouldn't be too bad out there getting across the bridge, if you're quick. Okay. See you later. Thank you. We get a recommendation there that council receives the Canterbury Mayoral Forum's plan for Canterbury 23 to 25. Someone like to move? Councillor Hooper, Councillor McMillan. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you. Next item is the Mayor's report, I think.
Through the chair, can I just ask a question? Will we get an update on that plan going forward?
Yeah, how would we propose to that would come back through the mayoral forum, would it, I think?
Yes, through Mr Mayor, the mayoral forum is looking to introduce a range of monitoring mechanisms to make sure that the work that's proposed and agreed is kept track of and reported back, and that information all goes on the mayoral forum website. So if at any time an individual councillor is interested, just go on the mayoral forum website. But there is also an opportunity through the reporting back on the attendance at the mayoral forum for information to flow to council in that manner.
So that could come through the mayor's report, perhaps.
Could do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can do. Yeah, and also just on that mayoral forum webpage, I'm not sure if you are signed up. You may be, you may not. Whenever something goes on there, there's a something that will alert you to the fact that there's a new press release or a new item on the mayoral forum webpage. And I think last council was set up. I'm not sure if this one has been, but we can assist in setting you. It's a click within the right place to click, and it's done. It's simple. And then whenever there's an announcement, it just comes to your as an email, I think, to let you know that there's something new there.
Yeah. And those meetings are all held in public. The minutes, the agendas, all the material is all goes up on the website. So
it'll all be there. Yeah.
It's a pretty transparent and visible part of our local democracy. But yes, we can perhaps fill up a check that councillors are getting the notifications when the new story or a new item is published.
It might have been the last council that was set up, and it hasn't happened for this one, but it's very simple and easy to set up. Councillor Cameron.
Just a sort of a question, and I may be a bit late here. Climate change resilience. We've seen Ian McKenzie on stuff pushing and expressing his disappointment with regards to riverbank stabilisation and getting shingle out of the rivers. And the whole of Canterbury is a braided river system where shingle is a problem with riverbanks and rivers and waterways and things. And I understand it's ECAN, I understand that, but what's the mayoral forum doing there with regards to that to sort of help move that forward? Is that totally outside your remit? I did read that little brochure online.
Yes, it's number one. Number one.
So the number one priority for the mayoral forum is
But what are they doing?
Well, all they can do is advocate.
Yeah,
So the number one priority is to advocate for co-investment in the management of the rivers. And so the mayoral forum takes every opportunity to prosecute that argument with decision makers. And when the mayoral forum was in Wellington a few weeks ago and met with that variety of ministers, every minister who had any responsibility for anything that might touch on climate change or infrastructure or resilience or finance or emergency management, or the same message was given to them that there is in our view, in the mayoral forum's view, a significant need for government to step up into the co-investment space. And the government's just announced a budget, and that is not included to the extent that anyone is satisfied within the Canterbury mayoral forum network. So it's an ongoing issue to continue that advocacy.
So, and presumably the politicians are engaged in that advocacy as well, but clearly the advocacy isn't enough. Is there another thing, anything else? We just have to wait, and a bit like our bridge, we just wait until someone has
Well, in the end, we're asking the government for money.
Yeah.
And so all you can do is ask the government for that money.
Yeah.
And when they don't give it, you haven't completed your work, and you just got to keep at it.
So
there's no different
communities that are going to have to continually rebuild and rehabilitate and dig out scouring land, as we saw with Darren Butterick and all the rest of it in the newspaper, and on it goes. Yeah, disappointing.
Now is a good time for you to advocate as well. As mayoral forum advocates, I advocate, you advocate. We're coming up to a very important process in October, and there'll be promises made from now until then. So you need to raise that as the potential candidates, or the candidates, potential MPs, will be heading around the district with meetings. That's the time to ask those questions and get the answers from them. Because as Hamish said, the request was for co-funding for shingle out of the rivers, and the budget was nothing. Listening but not doing.
And just to round that out, there's the regional councils of New Zealand, the various regional councils, including ECAN, commissioned a report from a gentleman, Basil Chamberlain, who used to be the chief executive of the Taranaki Regional Council. And he's done two reports, one a few years ago and one updated in the last 18 months, I suppose it would be. So, and it's a very thorough, very complete analysis of facts around maintenance of rivers, floods, costs of floods, infrastructure at risk of floods, and comes to the conclusion that the government should co-invest. And the government's got that report, and they've got all the mayors saying there's a need. In the end, we just have to keep advocating. There's nothing else we can do.
Okay, on to the Mayor's report, 11.1, Local Government New Zealand AGM, and there's a recommendation there that the Mayor be authorised to vote on behalf of Council at the Local Government New Zealand AGM 2023, and in the Mayor's absence, the Deputy Mayor be the alternating presiding delegate. Someone like to move? Councillor Ellis? Councillor Todd? Any discussion, debate? Not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Carried, thank you. 11.2, the governance structure, and with Councillor Mackel coming on, we've just had a wee bit of a shuffle around, very minorly, of delegations to councillors and what they are appointed to. The appointment schedule is attached, and the groups that Councillor Mackel has been appointed to.
Can I just ask a
Yes.
question? What, did we have a councillor appointed to the Rural Support Trust before now?
We did, and it was Councillor Wilson.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Wilson's picked up the zone committee, so we had a change around there. Yep. Yep. 11.3, Local Government New Zealand Akona, and the which is the training online for us, and there's a recommendation there that we sign up for the 12 months to test it and see how it works. There's a new system of training for us. We need to work out how we can get best benefit of it, whether we do it all at home or do it in here as a group, the training, or a combination of both, but we've got 12 months to work out. So there's a recommendation there that we register for the Local Government New Zealand Akona Learning and Development Program for a 12-month period at the cost of $8,500. Someone like to move? Or have you got questions first? I'll move.
I'm happy to second.
Debate? Discussion? Councillor Lovett?
The ones that we have missed, we'll be able to pick those up again. They're all sitting there recorded, I guess, or
When you
or
say,
have they been and gone?
when you say missed,
Well, we didn't, some of us, we had other meetings, whatever, and couldn't pick those ones up. Are they able to be downloaded online too?
as I understand it, they're there for the period, so if you don't,
Okay.
yeah, they're always there, but Philippa will know a bit more.
I may just need to clarify, are you talking about the wellbeing sessions?
Yes, yes.
Sorry, so they're a separate
They're different to
offer.
this.
The Arkona training is I'll send more information out to you, but you may recall that it's a multiple platform of webinars, modules, interactive expert people where you can join directly or you can go back and look at, and they'll offer particular topics of any particular council's interest if they're able to provide that. So the wellbeing training was an additional offer made by Local Government New Zealand for those who picked up the Okina training. You would have had, I think, 12 sessions without incurring any cost, and they've ceased that due to very low participation, but they haven't completely forgotten about it, and they're reassessing how they can deliver that in the future. But the module that you're signing up to today is a comprehensive package of training, and I'll give you more information. Okay. And you would have had the opportunity to look at it in detail at the beginning of February, and we can reissue you with a link once we signed up.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Cameron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we can request, say I want to learn about the RMA, specifically with regards to natural built environment or whatever, one particular thing, and it's not in there, we can request a module to Akona for that type of thing.
Philippa?
I understand that the request can be made and they'll do their very best to deliver it, and you may find that the RMA is already covered. I can check that
I'm
for
sure
you.
it is, I'm just thinking of grabbing
But
something out
yes,
of the
they're
air.
looking for feedback from councils throughout the country with suggestions.
Because the well-being one was essentially our behaviours. You know, we learned how to be resilient, or it was managing our behaviour and how we respond to situations, the ones that I attended, which I think didn't really resonate that well with all of us, but this might be more useful.
All different. The motion there. Any further speakers for or against? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. There's the mural calendar there as well.
Got a question. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you expand on your meeting with Michael Wood, then Minister of Transport?
Yeah, it was the Zoom meeting, and it was on public transport. After the budget, it was announced that under 13s get free and up to under 25s get half price. So it was mayors from New Zealand, if they went on to the Zoom, explaining what was in the budget, what was available. Available to us is nothing. We don't have public transport. But listening in or attending the call, there was one good question. It was about areas that don't have public transport, but they do have buses that travel through. Like, do they still have the intercity? Those sorts of public transport, would they be half price for or free for under 13s, half price for under 25s? He didn't know the answer, but he was going to go away and look at it. Yeah. So that was one interesting thing that came out. Longer distance travel. Yeah. Councillor Todd.
Probably along the same lines, to be fair. My question was that Michael Wood or James Cagle offer anything new on our project in Ashburton at all? Read the bridge.
We had a meeting with James Cagle Wakatahi yesterday, and I can update you on that later, if you like. Yeah, yesterday's announcements in Wellington may have changed things, but not sure. We can update you later on that. Councillor Lovett.
I was going to ask about the Fairfield Freight Hub. You're at a celebration. You don't really hear much about it. Is it on track, or what's actually going on there?
On track, is that a pun?
Well, you don't hear anything about it, and you have the odd person asking, you know.
Yeah, it's, if you go out there, you'll see it's on track.
Okay.
It's behind time schedule,
It is.
but work has started out there. It's underway. Yeah. To be completed, is it early next year, I think? Yeah.
They will have some delay. So they were waiting for a consent. As soon as they got that consent, the work has started. I understand there will be a little bit of a hiatus through the winter, and then the work again will pick up in spring. So it is behind, but it was driven by consenting issues, not lack of willingness to get on with it.
Okay.
So, yeah, underway. Anything further for the Mayor's report? I'll move that we receive the Mayor's report. Seconder. Councillor Todd. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And Appendix 1 has appended the delegation, the committee, the governance structure, appointments. Yeah. Councillor Wilson.
I think there was a mistake in the Appendix 1. I don't think I've been removed from the Rural Trust, and Councillor Mack will put on.
Rural support?
Rural support, I think. Page 84, Mid-Canberra Rural Support Trust, Councillor appointee, Councillor Wilson. It should be changed to Councillor Mackle.
Sorry, yes, it has, and that document is showing it incorrectly, but it has for the purposes of the official and the web copy. Thank you.
Thanks for that, pointing that out. We have, making amazing time. We have our Tuia next, who is Poppy Sarich. Poppy was going to come earlier, but is she going to come earlier than earlier? She's busy answering calls. Yep. After. Okay. So we may have to now move into, we've done all the open part of the meeting. We'll move into committee until Poppy and Katie turn up a little bit later. Jonathan, you're more than welcome to come back after we've, after probably say 2:15, we'll go back into open meeting and have the two-year presentation, which would probably be quite useful for you. Or you'll see it online anyway, so one or the other. So thank you. Someone like to move that we move into committee?
I will.
Councillor Lovett, Councillor Braham, all in favour, please say aye. Good. Carried, thank you. Welcome, Poppy, to the council meeting, and you're our Turia rep for this year, and congratulations on doing that. Perhaps you'd like to explain to us what you're doing on the Turia program that you're on, and Councillor McMillan and myself are your mentors for the time, so you've got some photos you can talk to, and perhaps we might have some questions at the end for you, so the floor is yours. Just push a button. Great.
Cool, thank you, Neil. Ooh, is that too close?
Just sit back a bit and you'll be fine.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, I've written it down because I will blank out and forget everything. So, kia ora, my name's Poppy Surridge. I was born in Auckland. My parents, my brother and I moved down to Ashburton when I was just before my second birthday. So my tribe is Ngāti Kuri, which, if you've ever been to the North Island, it is the furthest north that you can go. You can see us from Cape Reinga. So when Neil and Liz first approached me about joining Tuia, I was very nervous. I hadn't quite wrapped my head around what it was even really about. I was just excited to have the opportunity to see more of my own country and somehow give back to my community. And that's what this Tuia Leadership Kaupapa is all about. It's about being in a safe place with like-minded people and being able to explore being Māori without fear or judgment. And then hopefully using this courage and bringing it back to serve something more than myself, which is my community. The word tuia means to weave. So something that they've been explaining to us is when people are woven together well, their collective contribution has a greater positive impact on the community. And this is the goal, to find community within the Tuia kaupapa and then bring this home to Ashburton, where I can serve my community here. So this is my flight up to my first wānanga, and again, very nervous. I was clueless, scared I wouldn't fit in, and I kind of didn't want to go. I was freaking out. Turns out everyone there was feeling the exact same way. Everyone was nervous, and by being nervous together, we made friends and joined together. We were all flying to Hamilton together, and it was awesome to feel like I was a part of something. The concept of this 3-day wānanga was to weave with what had come before us. So each wānanga is about weaving with something. This one was about weaving with what came before us. So we did a lot of moving around Hamilton, visiting sites, learning about learning about Māori land wars and understanding the history, our history. Before this trip, I knew very little about land wars and about the Māori land wars, and I knew they happened, but I didn't quite grasp to what extent and what had really happened. So I knew it had happened, but I didn't really know the extent. And to be standing there with the whānau of people that actually went through it, telling us their stories on their land, was very humbling. And this is what the sort of weaving with what has come before us was getting at, understanding where we've come from and what our people have gone through. My biggest takeaway from this wānanga was, yes, we went through that. It's happened. We can't change it, but we can change how we move forward, how we decide to grow and learn from it, rather than holding it against anyone. It gave me a small glimpse into sort of generational trauma amongst Māori and how statistically this still plays out in young Māori's lives today. And this is what Tuia sort of, is encouraging and hoping to change. It left me thinking, what can we do and how can we support our people to grow from it instead? I'm still in the brainstorm sort of phase of what I can do. I'm heavily involved with netball and my Dorrie and Rakaia communities, the Lions Club, but Tuia is sort of bringing me towards mental health or support work, or I'm not quite sure, so if anyone's got any projects going on, let me know. So I'll show you some photos. It's just me flying. So this is the marae we stayed in Hamilton, Mangatoatoa Marae. I don't speak Māori. It's part of this is trying to learn and connect back with being Māori, so please forgive my pronunciation. This is one of the sites that we visited in Hamilton. These 8 leaders, I can't say their names, but they developed, well, they were one of the last standing areas that was completely shut off to Pākehā. It was completely Māori. You couldn't come in, and they almost couldn't leave. It was very interesting hearing about their perspectives and alcohol, and how alcohol wasn't, Māori didn't have alcohol, it was introduced, and actually keeping that out, so they kept it out for a very long time. This here was probably the most humbling experience. This is a church that was burnt down, what was gifted to the Māori of this area, and then it was burnt down, sadly, in part of the war with people inside. So just understanding that stuff has happened. It's easy to be angry about it, but it's better to know we can't change it, so let's move forward together. So on the second night of the Wananga, we have sort of a celebration of just coming together and being together. We have food, and there was all these notes that were sat around in front of everyone. Everyone got one each, and this was mine, and it really hit me. So I don't know if anyone can read it, but you are intentionally manifested by the hands of your tupuna. So tupuna is kind of like ancestors thing. But yeah, just understanding that, there's people that have thought of me, and I'm here because of people thinking of me, Neil and Liz taking me on board. This is my crew, all my friends, all my people in Tuia with me. So these are leaders or Tuia as well that are doing the same as me. First first maybe 2 hours, we were all nervous and didn't want to talk to each other, but now we're all besties. It's really amazing through the whole of New Zealand that I have people that I can call or text or ask questions. Is amazing. So it's a lot of people. Next one was Rotorua. So I've done 2 Wanangas of 5 so far. The second Wananga was in Rotorua and was centred around weaving what is below us. So, so in other words, earth and nature, what is below us, what the earth gives us. Everything underneath us is important and has a purpose. I came home from this trip grinning from ear to ear. It was the most amazing experience. I'm an outdoorsy person. My parents are farmers. We live off the earth, so I really connected on this one. It was all about connecting with the earth and to show us how we can all feel connected by interacting with nature. We spent our days with our feet in the dirt, singing in the rain, making art and healing remedies with things that we can get from the earth. Rotorua, a few people have probably been. It's a really beautiful place in the world, and it's geothermal properties, like it's dirt and it's air and everything is healing. I felt a connection with the earth on this one. I could see how connecting with it has so many healing properties, physically, mentally, spiritually. The earth has so much to offer, and often as humans we take advantage of that. On this trip we had the goal of, I think it was about 70 to 80 people on this trip, and our goal was to have one rubbish bag that we couldn't reuse or take away with us, so pure rubbish, one bag. We got down to 2, which for 80 people, we can hardly do that for a family of 4 at home. But we managed to get down. So we had compost. We were making things out of our rubbish. We fed pigs. Yeah, it was really beautiful. Even when I've come home afterwards, I've still started thinking more about how I use plastic and disposable items. So yeah, a real big takeaway for me on that one. So that's the, obviously that's the airport. You can't really tell how badly there, but it was pouring with rain this whole trip. So you couldn't escape nature. It was everywhere. This is the marae that we stayed in. So this is the lake. It was right behind the marae. And one really sort of special experience we had there is they just said to us, 7 a.m. meet us behind the marae. I'm like, okay, and we're all dragging ourselves out of bed, like really struggling. Because you don't get a lot of sleep at a marae, if anyone doesn't know that. But yeah, 7 a.m. met us by the lake, and we did, and there was this fog. You couldn't see the lake. There was just this thick, miserable fog everywhere. And they taught us a waiata karakia, so a singing prayer. And it was all about, you know, connecting back to earth and how, you know, when you're lost or confused, go back to the ground. And we're just sort of humbly singing this song, and the fog just started rising, and it was the most magical, sort of beautiful experience ever. So that was really cool. Rotorua hot pools, again, healing properties here, was incredible. A lot of people did. I got to choose a course that I did throughout the day, and it was about making medicine out of natural, sorry, not medicine, but like sort of medicine, more mentally helping you, out of natural leaves and dyes. This is me soaking wet, walking back from the hot pools. This here was another course that we did, and this was amazing too. It was about, we made paint. The sort of brown one there is made out of like honeydew, or like that sort of sap you get from a tree, and that binds it, a little bit of water, and then any colour you can find in the wild, like a green leaf or a brown bit of clay or different types of soil make different colours. And that was incredible. You don't have to go to Mitre 10 or anything. You can walk around and you can make paint. Maybe not on the scale that you sometimes need, but you can also see the white sort of cloth that's under the rock. We all had one of them that we got to like use colour and do different. I'm not very artistic, so mine was very ugly. But yeah, it was really awesome being able to understand what you can do without having to use money or while using the earth. This is us singing in the rain. I don't know if you can see me. I'm sort of to the right in my gumboots and rain jacket over that side. But yeah, just really beautiful. No one complained about the rain. Somehow we all connected with it and made it a part of what we were doing. So the next wānanga is at the end of this month, and it's down in Otako, Dunedin. This one's centred around weaving with what's within us. So we all have the opportunity to do a presentation on what it means to be us. I'm really excited for the trip. I'm finally feeling comfortable there, and we're all becoming extremely close. I'm excited to see, I'm interested to see how this one will help us come back to our communities and hopefully inspire us even more to help within our communities. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess I just want to thank Neil and Liz for thinking of me, giving this extremely incredible opportunity to me, thinking of me and riding with it. And I hope I can bring this back to Ashburton.
Thanks, Poppy, and it was a pleasure to invite you to go on this course, me and Liz, to do that for you, and the learnings you're learning is immense, I think. I suppose we'll call it you live in the dream, which is really good and exciting for us to hear how you are connecting back with your heritage, which is great. Councillors, questions of Poppy Vinny. It was pretty in-depth presentation you gave us. Took about 20 minutes, Poppy, 25 minutes.
Did it?
Yes, it did. Time is not an issue, but you thought you might be all over in 5. Well, you did a lot better than that, so well done.
Oh, God.
I have a question from Councillor Todd.
Oh, thank you. How were you selected, Poppy, for this project? How, like, did these wonderful people nominate you? Or
So when I moved to Ashburton, one of my very first friends at school was Hayden Brown, which is Neil's son. So I've known Neil my whole life, pretty much. But yeah, just talking with my family, and then Neil's probably heard, last year my goal was to connect back to being Māori, because I've been in Aussie and I've lost touch with being Māori, and then being down south here, away from my whānau, is a bit harder. So I think when Neil heard about it, it just binged, and he asked me, and well, actually, I was called up to the mayor's office with no context. And I was told Liz was going to be there, and I hadn't met Liz before, and I was like, why, what in the world could possibly be happening? And that's what happened. And I said yes straight away.
I think there was mention you're supposed to bring scones to the mayor's office too, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yes, okay, I'll bring scones.
Thanks. Well done. Liz, you're about to push your button, do you?
No,
you're
I'm
not.
just going to say regarding the selection. So over the last probably 6 or more years, we've had a different rangatahi from Ashburton doing the Tuia program, and it's part of the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. The selection process, what we normally do is Neil and I have a chat amongst ourselves and see if we know someone who might be interested, and then we actually go back to Hakatiri Marae and sort of see if they have any ideas or any suggestions, and if we've got suggestions, we go back with the name, and they go, yep, sounds good. Luckily, everyone knew Poppy's mum, so at the marae, so it worked out really well. But that's generally how it's happened. I don't think we've ever had a staff member in the past. We've normally had a tuia who has been sort of 18, 19, so just sort of left school, first 2 or 3 years of university. I attended one of the Wānanga last year with Cheyenne, and noticed how many were a little bit older, and were probably, there were quite a few that worked for council, so that's kind of where the idea came from as well. But yeah, it's great to have Poppy on board. She's really enthusiastic, and yeah, it's really good.
So come November this year coming, I'll email you all, and you may know of someone who could do the Tuia program next year, because it's only a 1-year program. The only qualifications you need is under, say, 30 years old, and you need to have Māori heritage, and that's about it, I think. Yeah, and a willingness to participate in the program. So if you think you know of someone, you can be thinking now and then, and in November of this year coming, we'll be asking for some names, and yeah, it's a super program, and Poppy's enjoying it now, as have, and Cheyenne, you've met Cheyenne, who was Tuia last year. She's actually doing a few of the waiatas, is that the word? Waiangas, that's it, with Poppy this year, because she missed a few last year for certain reasons. So she's catching those up, and Poppy and her have bonded as well, which is good.
Baby.
Further questions, councillors? No? Well done, Poppy. Extremely well done. Thank you very much for presenting. Super.
Thank you.
And you can have a cup of tea with us shortly if you wish, if you don't have to go back to work. Does she? Katie, you've got 3 new staff members to introduce, so the floor's yours.
Sure do. Right, kia ora koutou katoa. I am very pleased to introduce today. We have 4 new staff members. It looks like 3, but there's one hiding out the back. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Ian Coleman. Stand up. Ian has joined our open spaces team as a horticulturalist. He has joined us from ACL, where he had worked for a number of years prior to coming to ADC. We also have Amanda Tondelo. Amanda has also joined the Open Spaces team as a horticulturalist. She's recently returned to Ashburton, and prior to that she was working in the dairy industry. And we also have Shanae Adams. Shanae has joined our finance team as our new accounts administrator. So she's recently arrived from South Africa, and she's actually married to Bew Adams, who's one of our engineers in our projects and operations team. And finally, we have Lily Wang. She's come out. She is our digital comms communications officer at our comms team, and she started a couple of months ago. 6 weeks ago, so warm welcome to them all.
Thank you, Katie, and yes, it is a warm welcome to you all to join the staff here. Hope you enjoy your time with us that you're here. Let it be enjoyable, let it be productive. So, and I think now we've come to the end of our meeting, haven't we, Philippa? So I'm going to declare the meeting closed, and we're going to break and we'll